Hello, everyone. Today we're going to go over the poetry analysis activity that we did 2 weeks ago with Frost at Midnight. Here I've chosen a selection, lines 59 to 67, that I wanted to use to discuss meters. So I'm not going to go over everything with you. I will definitely go over how to find the meter, but then I will post a sample assignment essentially. So it's one that I've completed. It's how I'm looking for your responses to be shaped when we do an activity like this, and we will do another one in the future. Now, when I was going through your assignments, one thing I noticed is that we are tragically bad at finding the meter of a poem. And so what I want to do today with this section is find the meter with you. Now, the easiest way to find the meter is to read the poem out loud. You naturally, when you read something, stress certain syllables over other ones. So if we read this first line, but thou, my babe, shalt wander like a breeze. But thou, my babe, shalt wander like a breeze. If we're going to find the stress and unstressed, we're going to see naturally when we read this what makes a harder sound than other syllables. So, but thou, my babe, shall wander like a breeze by lakes and sandy shores beneath the crags of ancient mountain and beneath the clouds, which image in their bulk both lakes and shores and mountain crags. So shalt thou see and hear the lovely shapes and sounds intelligible of that eternal language which thy God utters, who from eternity doth teach himself in all, and all things in himself. So, if you are unsure of a certain syllable, so for example, but thou does not strike me as being a stressed syllable. I'm going to read the rest of the line. But thou, my babe, that hard B sound is definitely a stressed, and my is definitely an unstressed. Now let's see if but thou fits into this. But thou. Can we stress that thou? Yeah, we can. So, but thou, my babe, shalt wander like a breeze. Now, what's important here is but thou are two separate words, right? We can definitely distinguish this is one foot. My babe, again, two separate words. Shalt wander. Wander is a word that has two syllables in it. Now, when you're finding meter, those two syllables stand alone. So you can break a foot, and remember this one stressed and unstressed is a foot. You can break a foot in the middle of a word. So if we're going to break the foot here, shalt wander, shalt wan is one, der like a breeze. So we see here we have unstressed and stressed, right? So unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed, and there are 5 of these, right? This indicates this is iambic pentameter. Now, mind you, this is just the first line, but I'm going to go ahead and make the statement that it's iambic pentameter because I know there's a good chance if one line is like this, they are all like this or mostly like this. Now, when we're looking at meter, and the reason why we look at meter is because if we know that most of this poem is written in iambic pentameter, but then one line is different, we know that there's a reason that line is different. It's an intentional shift. Now, let's go. If we're going to confirm this is iambic pentameter, we need to have multiple lines that line up to this. So, can we continue this? By lakes and sandy shores beneath the crags. Okay, again, this lines up. Of ancient mountain and beneath the clouds, which image in their bulk both lakes and shores. Okay, so again, if I'm going to start this, of ancient mountain and beneath the clouds, which image in their bulk both lakes and shores. oh, I missed a line. By lakes and sandy shores beneath the crags. So here, beneath is one word, but still it's two separate syllables. So that gets broken up. So when you're finding meter, what I saw a lot of you doing was beneath, for example, is one word, but it has two syllables, and you guys were only taking it as if it has one. And just remember, a syllable is how many times your jaw drops when you're saying a word. So beneath. I know that beneath is two syllables. One, I can clap it out, beneath. But two, if I put my hand right under my jaw, the number of times that my chin hits my hand when I say the word, that's how many syllables it has. Okay, so this is how you're going to find the meter. Now, it's not always going to be iambic pentameter. You can have, actually very easily, you can have two unstressed and a stressed is a very common. We indicate them like this with the U's and the hashes. And you can have two stressed syllables in a row. There are quite a few number of different patterns you can have for meter. But the most common one is going to be an iambic pentameter. And when you're thinking iambic pentameter, your brain should immediately resonate with Shakespeare. All of Shakespeare, well, I shouldn't say all, most of Shakespeare's plays, if not all, because I'm not 100% sure, are written in iambic pentameter. And that's because we naturally speak this way. So that was easier for them to memorize these things. Let's look at an example of what this full activity should have looked like for you. So I will post this on Google Classroom. I want you to take a look at it. I'm going to go through some of this. Okay. For number 2, paraphrase the passage, put in your own words what's happening here. Now, a lot of you, you kind of tried to do this, and I appreciate your effort. But what you're really supposed to be doing is translating whatever passage you chose from this poem and literally just walk through what's happening. If you're going to take this poem, take your excerpt of this poem and explain it to somebody randomly, okay? What is going on? So, for example, the passage that I chose marks the turn in the speaker's thought. The speaker shifts from reflecting on his own childhood experience in school to projecting on his or her thoughts on the child in his or her hands. Now, notice his or her. We do not necessarily know who the speaker is. Even though our poet is obviously a man, that does not mean that a speaker reflects that. Okay, and I'm going to emphasize this point because a lot of us were making gendered assumptions, and you really can't do that unless there's hard evidence to support that it is a man or a woman that is the speaker. Because just because a man or a woman is the poet does not mean they are writing from that perspective. All right, the speaker is hopeful of the child's future by emphasized by the phrase, "But thou, my babe." The speaker explains the child will wander like a breeze through various natural forms such as lakes, mountains, and shores. Now notice the use of textual evidence here. It's not, when you're analyzing anything, okay, it's not just about what you're saying. It is, but it isn't. And I'm going to explain this. So I could have stopped, for example, at the speaker shifts from reflecting his or her experiences in school, projecting his or her thoughts on the child in her hands. The speaker is hopeful for the child's future. I could have stopped there. The reason why I don't is because I want to convince the person reading my work or the person reading my interpretation of this poem that I have sufficient evidence to support why I'm saying this thing. If you simply said, "This is what's happening," and you didn't provide any textual evidence to support that, that is problematic, okay? No matter what you do in this AP class, you have to have evidence. There's no reason why in everything that you submit for me at this point in the year, you should not be using quotations. And I don't mean full lines. Look at this, guys. "But thou, my babe," it's a short little thing. "Lakes" is a one-word analysis. A one-word quotation, and that is fine. Incorporate quotes from the text into your own writing so that most of the work is your own, okay? But you have enough evidence in there that lets the person reading your work know, hey, this person, one, read the text, and two, has thought pretty thoroughly about this and made their own opinions based on what they found in the text. And that's fine. Now the other one I wanted to go over, we can take a second and go over the meter. So methinks its motion in this hush of nature. So methinks its motion in this hush of nature has an extra unstressed. For this number 3C, there is a variation in here, and then you're going to discuss, okay, why is there a variation? So you can look at the answer that I wrote here, but you have to come to some conclusion. If it's different, there's a reason why it's different, okay? So you can take a look at that. I highly encourage you to take a look at that. But the one I really wanted to go over, and I think it was a missed opportunity for you guys, was 5. So select a word in the passage, either one you don't know or one you think is striking. I chose abstruser. I thought that was a weird word. So abstruse, the word abstruse originates from Latin. Based on the OED, there are 2 recognized meanings of the word: difficult to understand or concealed and hidden. One thing worth noting here is that there is no obtruser as used in the poem. The word is meant to be used as an adjective, but Coleridge appears to use it as a noun. Based on the previous 2 lines and the most likely meaning for the word obtruser is difficult to understand. This would mean that the speaker is referring to him or herself as someone that is difficult to understand. However, it's possible that the speaker is referring to his or her musings as a secret, which would support a reading using the second definition. It does not appear that the meaning of the word has changed over time. Now, in this particular case, the word hasn't changed over time, but notice there are 2 definitions: difficult to understand, concealed, and hidden. There are very few words in which there's only one definition. I'm going to be really honest with you. If it's a word that stuck out to you because you didn't know it, there's a good chance that there's multiple definitions for this word. When you're analyzing something and you have the opportunity to look up these words, you're going to look at both meanings, because these ultimately are different. Okay? If I use this word in 2 different sentences and I'm playing off of, a different meaning in each sentence, that changes what this word's use is. Okay, so in the poem, if you're looking for, hey, this word was used and there's 2 possible definitions, which way are they using it? Or are they playing off of both? And there's a very good chance we can have a word that is kind of maybe one way, but maybe they're also using it the other. And there's a lot of ambiguity in this, and that speaks volumes for what the poet is doing. Okay, so I did want to give you an example, especially of this vocabulary section, because there's a lot of missed opportunities when you analyze a text and you don't take into consider language. All right, then you can go through the rest of the response. Is it possible that Coleridge is playing off of both meanings? It is possible that he's playing off of both meanings in this. The word obtruse in this passage is noted earlier, and I go ahead and I'll explain this, and you can go ahead and read through that response again. I really highly encourage that you go through this document and compare with your own answers. I was not harsh in grading this assignment for you this time, because this is our first and it is difficult, and you were doing it on your own, not in class where I could help you. However, now that you have a sample of this, I will be more difficult in this assignment, okay? It's important that you can pick the nitty-gritty aspects of these poems, especially given that if you are taking the AP test, poetry is most likely going to be the essay given. And if you're not taking the AP test, you still need to know how to dissect literature, okay? So that's it for this assignment, guys. For this, feel free to go through the rest of the assignment. If you have any questions, reach out to me, and stay tuned for the next video.